Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Rescue Mission. So this month, obviously with ADHD, it's the focus month, right, for October, and it was totally by accident, but obviously something that we can talk and riff on all day long, because I obviously is someone who has a neurodivergent brain, I think a little differently. I've got ADHD, but, I've definitely learned to harness things as more of a superpower. We've got Christy, who's, obviously my friend and also does all the operations for our businesses, for Scott and myself. And so we're really kind of riffing on some different topics in the ADHD world. And today we're really going to dive into streamlining your focus and really making sure that we simplify our workflow, right? What are some things that we can do as people with ADHD to make ourselves more productive and more effective on a day-to-day basis. And I think some of the things that we're going to get into, which guys, this isn't scripted, we're kind of going off the cuff here. But I'd like to really get into some of the things that we've done almost like not even realizing it in our life, that have simplified things, not only in our business world, but also have transitioned over into our personal world as well. So hello, Christy. Um,
Oh,
so thank you so much for joining us today. So first of all, we're going to just jump into just understanding, right, the complexity and the differences in business and as entrepreneurs with ADHD, the complexity of that. So knowing what we know, and I think the older that I have become, okay, the more I realize being around people and being around business owners and being around others, my brain works so differently. In fact, I was just part of a mastermind where we were all sitting around and everyone was firing off information, right? It was kind of like a hurricane and a tornado of information. And I was sitting there so excited in the middle of it, grabbing from that
mhm.
information, right? I was going boop, 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 and I was hyper focused on solutions, right? So problem, 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 solution, solution. So it was a joke. They kind of giggled because at the end of every conversation, I would write everybody a little action plan, for the things that they're working on. And they're like, Nancy,
Okay.
how does your brain work like that? Like, how are you
Yeah.
able to do that? And it's so
Mhm.
funny because I'm able to, right, really like hone in and really hyper focus on certain things. And again, the way that my brain, it's almost like a processor where, from an engineering standpoint, it's like, here's the data. All right, here's the problems. And then here's obviously the solutions based on experience. So that, was a glaring thing where I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought everybody, could do that, or I thought that that was normal. Other things too, I sing and hum all day long. I don't know
Mhm.
if you know that about me. You
It's a
probably
stim.
do,
Yep.
but
It's
it's a
stimulating.
stim. It's something
Yep.
that, I have energy, right? And whether it's shaking my leg or, bobbing my knee up and down or, fidgeting with things, chewing on pen caps, like
Yep.
again, it's an outlet. And I never really thought about it because, my mom does it too. And all my life, people are like, do you know you're like humming really loud? And, anyway, so there's certain things, right, that bubble up. And having ADHD, I really do believe can be such a blessing if we're able to harness it in the right way. And so when we talk about the workplace and when we talk about like, entrepreneurship, right? If you just told someone, hey, my working hours are 9 to 5, right? Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
9 to 5, and we're just going to, sit at our computer and we're going to do XYZ. Where things get a little sketchy, right? Okay, with somebody like ADHD, who has ADHD, things can run awry pretty quickly, right? If we don't have that way to kind of reel us back in. And so, Chrissy, tell me a little bit about like, I guess if you want to transparently share, what do you find happening, when you sit down at your computer? Um, and when do you find your ADHD kind of creeping in? Like, if you can just share, I guess just,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
So my ADHD is always the worst as soon as I sit down. So for me, one of the strategies I had to learn was I had to be really intentional about planning my day tomorrow when I leave. Like it's the last thing I do in my office when I'm working. So a blank canvas for me is also something I really struggle with. And so for me, I have to have a small plan to start. I can't. It's funny. I think everybody is really different and everybody has different triggers. You know, sometimes people talk about time blocking. And for me, if I look at a time block calendar, I'm out because it's overstimulating for me. And so I have to find a way, and you have to find a way that just works for you. And we can give you all the strategies in the world, but there's a lot of trial and error that happens, and you just have to find the way through that makes the most sense to you. But for me, it's trying to download as much of my brain as possible into structure and into checklists and patterns. Even though I know the checklist, I still have to write it down because there's something to me. The less I have to think about things, the less overwhelmed I get. And one of the things I thought of when you were talking about your processing speed, ADHDers process very quickly, and it frustrates people that can't do it. But one of the things that I've noticed is that if my brain's overwhelmed, I don't process as quickly. In fact, it really slows down. And so I have to really protect my brain, and the amount of stuff that's in it. And I have to download that somehow and in some way. And so that's part of what I have to do in order to not procrastinate as much, as just to have a really simple plan. And sometimes it's just do A and B and the really small things, but it gets the ball rolling and then I'm good to go.
Yep, absolutely. And just, kind of bouncing from that, right? Like I even told Chrissy this morning, like it's so funny. I'm like, all right, I have a goal, I'm going to sit down. We were actually supposed to have a coaching call with a client. And so I kind of mentally had already prepared for that. And then I knew after that coaching call, right, we were going to do this podcast. And then we're going to get into a little bit of content planning. And then I've got a couple other coaching calls. So knowing that, right, I kind of mentally prepared my brain for that. Well, our client didn't show up for the coaching call. So now, I'm left to my own devices.
Yeah.
And I kind of just looked around. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to be planning for content. So I'm going to start kind of prepping for that early, right? So I kind of started with good intention. And then all of a sudden it popped up in my brain, oh my goodness, we're going to have this call with this person later. So I want to actually pull up and prep a couple things for that. And so then I opened up that email. And then I thought in my head, oh, when am I going to balance my QuickBooks? I mean, guys, this is seriously like real life, right?
Oh,
Transparent, how my
that's
brain works.
familiar.
Okay. So I'm
Yep.
like, oh my gosh, like I've got to balance my QuickBooks. So then I open up my QuickBooks online. So I am now balancing my QuickBooks. I've got this email open. I've got the content prep just kind of started. Okay. That's no bueno. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're talking about this because again, right, this is common. Okay. This is something that, a lot of us struggle with. And again, we can have all the good intentions of doing all these things, but we've got to make sure that when we start down this spiral, we've got to reprioritize. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I were to look at all those things, I look over and I've got all these tabs open, Nancy, what is the highest priority at this moment?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I did, because I slowed myself down and I said, all right, no matter what today, we have to get my content plan for November. Okay. So I closed a couple tabs. In fact, I closed my QuickBooks tab, which I was so like, yes, I have to get this done. What did I
Mhm.
do? I wrote it down on a little note here that says ASAP. I got to come back to it. Okay. Because I don't trust my brain to remember that. So I wrote it down. And this is my high priority sticky. Okay. Meaning it's going to get done. So it is now stuck to the side of my computer and I will get that done, but it's a priority, but it's not my number one today. Okay. So I've got my content window open. So I made sure that the number one goal that I want to get accomplished today, boom, it's going to get done. It's open. I know we're going to go through it. So it's making sure that when you start down this spiral, guys, you're able to reel it in, close all those tabbies and get refocused. One
Mhm.
technique that I really like, right? So when we talk about, prioritization techniques and things like that, I forget what it's called. And in fact, we'll make sure we'll put this in the content, but there is it's like a box. I think it's called like Einstein's or Eisenhower box. Okay.
Eisenhower Box.
So
Yep.
yeah, so it's called the Eisenhower box and live. I'm actually going to search this real quick to make sure I explain it correctly. But basically within the box, it has urgent and important, do it now.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's actually 4 quadrants,
Yep.
which, the top left is do it now. The stuff that's not urgent, but it is important, you decide and schedule a time to do it. Okay, so
Mhm.
schedule a time to do it. So this QuickBooks thing, I scheduled some time tomorrow to do it, right? I blocked out about an hour for that. Underneath, it says not important, but it's urgent. Can you delegate it, right? Is that something someone else can do it for you, do for you? It's got to get done, but it's not the most, important thing. And then underneath that, in the very like least of your worries is delete it. get rid of it. Okay. If it's not something that needs to get done, get it off your list. So I think the Eisenhower box is a really cool way to prioritize. In fact, I want to kind of bring it back up again. It was something that I learned about years ago. That can be really helpful. It's very basic, but very simple. The other thing too is I love, okay, my little Pomodoro timer. Now, you might have one that looks like a tomato, right? Yep. Christy's got a little circle one, which is digital. I got this on Amazon. But anyway, the concept of the Pomodoro timer is that, this one does have multiple times on it. But Pomodoro usually is about 20-minute sprints. And what it is you set the timer for 20 minutes and you say, all right, that's it. I'm going to get this done. And you set it for 20 minutes and you'd be very surprised what things you can accomplish quickly, right? If you don't get it done, flip it back over, you got 20 more minutes, but it keeps you, right? Like in that time framework, after you obviously make sure that you prioritize what you got to get done. So I really enjoy that. And even with things in your personal life, right? Cleaning, getting things done that you keep putting off. Guys, so many things build up in our minds, right? Like we have stuff all over the house that we want to clean up. We build up in our minds that it's going to take way longer than it really does. And that is usually, right, not the case. So just know that we can definitely knock a lot out. And I love the Pomodoro technique. Now, let's kind of talk a little bit more about some organizational tools. And even, we're going to also get into some time management tips, which, I know we've got a lot of really good ones. But what are some tools, Christy? And I know you talked about this previously before, but what are some tools that work for you, specifically with some of the things that come along with ADHD that you found really helpful?
So there's a couple, and we've mentioned some today and some yesterday, but I have got an app that I like to use. It's called Sunsama. And one of the things that's really nice is all of my to-dos go into there. So if I have to clean the house, I've literally got a checklist of, you need to sweep the floor, you need to mop the floor, you need to, throw the load of laundry in for today in there. And it took a little bit of prep and timing to get there. But I have checklists for everything, and it sounds silly, but it just takes my brain out of the equation, and I literally have to follow along. And the nice thing about that app is I can set it up so that it only allows me to focus on what I'm actually working on in that time right there. Like on that thing, that project, that client's work, the whatever it is. And then anything that pops up, to your example, the QuickBooks tab, I've got a notebook that's with me all the time, and anything that pops up goes onto that notebook, and then I go back to focusing. The other thing that's really, really important for me is I shut all my notifications off on my phone, and it's really hard for me, but I would never recommend using a Pomodoro timer on your phone, because you're going to get a text or you're going to get a message of Facebook ding or whatever, and all of a sudden you're down in a different spot. So I do have my phone with me just because, that's what we do, and how it is, but it's usually face down. It's usually on the computer, or, on my table. I've got my alarm turned off. And I just use the Pomodoro stuff on my computer. It just helps to keep me really focused, because I derail really quickly. And so if I have a really clear plan, I think being really clear on what your intentions are and your priorities are at the beginning of the day is really, really helpful. So those are the big ones for me. I've got lots of others, but those are the ones that I rely on the heaviest, I think.
Love it. Yeah. I know there's definitely ones that pop up for me. I think more so like with business, I do have, and I highly recommend, obviously, I know you use it as well, but having a project management tool for your business, every single successful, business owner that I've worked with, guys, if you're listening, has a project management tool. Okay. And there's a million bajillion different ones out there. ClickUp is the one that I'm currently using. In fact, I'm not the biggest fan of it, just because, again, there's so much to it and I haven't really found my groove in there yet. But I did used to use a program called Teamwork. I really loved it. It just got kind of expensive pretty quickly, but there's all different ones out there, and it is important that you find one that works for you. One that I actually still use, that's more client facing, a little more see it, it's more graphics and visual, and that is called Trello. So there's Trello boards that I've built. And just so you guys know, if you have never used Trello before, it's kind of like a Kanban style project management tool, where if you can just imagine, kind of like a rectangle, and it's got lists, like to-do lists that you can like kind of write out, and organize them in different ways. And you can drag and drop things. And I really love it so much because you can drag and drop pictures in there. It's a great way to organize your content, because you're able to really organize it and see it, right? All in one fell swoop rather than having to click on multiple things. And so it's a program that I've been using for years. A lot of people too use it for personal, if I'm planning out recipes for the week, or let's say I'm planning out projects for the house, or, things that I want to get done, or organizing different things like that. You can also use Trello. So Trello is a big one for me that I really love. And I love the customization of it, where you can really make it fun. You can update the colors, the backgrounds, you can add pictures in there. So it's a lot of fun. The other tool that I would say, guys, it's absolutely changed my life, is a Google Chrome extension called Toby. You can learn more by going to gettoby.com. Get Toby. Man, I've been a member of that app for so long that I think I got in at the ground floor when they were charging nothing. Now they do have a free version, but they have a paid version as well, which they didn't have before. But what it is a way to organize your tabs on your computer. So instead of using bookmarks, you can actually go in and just, I kind of want to walk you through, right, how I use it. It turns your tabs in Google to kind of like this big organization, setup where you've got an organization, which could be your overall business. And then within that, you can organize different collections and spaces. And so, for example, we have many different programs. We've got many different businesses that we run. So I have it all broken out, by business, by, specific thing. In fact, I've got ones, for my agency. And then within that, it's all my clients, right? Which is just their first names or their business name. And then it's got all the tabs related to their business. So it could be their Trello boards, any of the Google Docs that I need to grab, anything important, right? So that whenever I do sit down on a call with them, I can click a button really quick and it just pulls all that information up. Again, it's very helpful for our mastermind program, right? So we have 3 different cohorts in our mastermind. So when I sit down on a coaching call, I can sit down, I can search that person's name, I can click one button and all their tabs will pop up. And I have their onboarding form, I've got their, goal form, action plan, all that stuff. So it has been a complete game changer for me. I mean, I I can't tell you how much time it has saved, just being able to have everything like that. The other thing that I'll share, and this was whenever, Scott and I were writing our last book, there would be days where I would get really heavy into writing, right? I'm like a little train, when I get generating and I'm going. Well, there would be days where it's like, hey, Nancy, we got to stop. We got to eat dinner and kind of cut off for the day. And normally, guys, that is such a trigger for me because, again, I get so focused, right? Hyper focused. And I think many of us, right, with ADHD can struggle there where we don't want to shut it down. We don't want to stop it because we're afraid that if we do, all the balls will drop. Well, the one thing about Toby is you can actually click save session. So every tab that you've got open. So I had at one point 20 different tabs, right? I was doing research, I was citing, I was updating, the Google Doc with our chapters. I had all this stuff open simultaneously, right, as I was working on this. So what I was able to do and have that peace of mind was just click save session, mark, this is where you left off, with the book. And then it saved it all into one little space so that tomorrow when I went back, I could just click it, reopen everything and jump back in. So I cannot say enough good things about Toby. It is the best money. I don't even know how much it is now, probably 12 bucks a month or something. It is the best money that I've spent. So that's another tool. And another one that I'll just add. So organizational tools. Yeah, we already talked about the Pomodoro timer. I really love. I would just also say, as simple as it sounds, I've got a board. So for anyone watching this on video, right? I've got a board. It looks a little messy at the moment, but what that board is it's got the month. Okay. So I can put the entire month. On the right of it, it's got today. So it's got all the calls and the things going on for today. And then underneath, it's got the week. And so for me, it's a really, really powerful tool, even as simple as it is. In fact, I got it at Michael's, a couple years ago. It has been such a game changer for me because all the anxiety of even looking at my phone or pulling up my Google Calendar or, having to kind of figure out what's going on for the day, being able to come in here on a Sunday and make sure that my calendar is updated for the week ahead. I've got my next day planned out. In fact, at the end of today, I'll actually go on, I'll erase it, and I'll write down my schedule for tomorrow. It gives me that peace of mind that I actually have control, going into the next day. So those are three tools I absolutely love, Trello, Toby, and my little calendar board. And again, having the month, week, and day on there is just a game changer. All right. So, Chrissy, we talked about it a little bit earlier, kind of on the side, but we were talking a little bit about personal and business, right? What are some time management tips that you have, that have worked for you that have really helped impact kind of both those areas in your life?
Yeah, so I think for work, we talked about clarity and organizing, and I really think that that kind of trickles over into other areas. I end up being very type A personality when it comes to things like that. So my kids are in sports. We have a busy life outside of work, and so I order all my groceries online, so they're delivered to my front door. It's a huge game changer. It saves a lot of time, and I don't overspend, and that's a big thing for me that my dopamine goes like haywire, and all of a sudden I've spent $400 on groceries and I didn't mean to. Having somebody to come walk the dogs, putting things on auto repeat. One that's a really big one for me, and I use this in my business and in my personal life. I set a lot of reminders on my phone for things. So if ever so whenever I find out whoever's birthday it is, so say one of my sons has got a birthday coming up for a friend, I'll put their birthday event in the calendar, and then I just know I automatically a week before or 5 days before, I'll be like, you have to purchase gift for so and so, because otherwise I'd be racing around last minute trying to figure things out. I put a lot of reminders. I think that's I had a car accident a couple of years ago, and I worked with an occupational therapist because I really struggled with a concussion, and a lot of the same tools and techniques that she shared with me were really helpful. And it's basically to try to remove as much cognitive strain as possible. So as an example, I always use a GPS in the car. Even though I know where I'm going, it takes that out of my brain, and it's less taxing to my head. I have a to-do list of everything. If I have to remember to go pick up something, say I bought something off of Facebook Marketplace and I have to remember to get it tomorrow, I'll put a reminder in my phone. Even though I know I'll remember it, it's just taking the things and trying to download as much out of my head into my phone as possible is really important for me. It's getting really clear. One of the things I did is I was frustrated because cleaning my house was becoming overwhelming, and I couldn't keep up with the laundry, and I get mad because Sunday I'd be cleaning the whole house with our family, and I'd have 10 loads of laundry to do or whatever. And I created a system where I literally have a day of the week for each load of laundry. And my job during the day is I have to get it washed and dried and folded and put away. So one day it's the sheets, one day it's towels, one day it's, dot, 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 but there's a specific day for each of those things. And so I think it takes a little bit of forethought. I work with Nancy professionally. There's a lot of moving pieces in our business as we work together. And so one of the things that I'll do is if I know I've got something that needs to get sent out at a future date, I literally write it in my planner. And it's one of those things where don't forget you need to do this. And then all the little check marks are there. And it really helps so that I can Nancy talked about having a lot of balls in the air. It helps me to reduce those balls. So I'm not afraid of dropping anything because things are just, I've written them down. They're in a place that I'll know I'll find them later. So I don't have to worry about missing. So I don't know if that was helpful, but there's a couple different things there.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I was like just tailing off of that, like, you talked a little bit about like making decisions, right? Like I totally get caught up with decision fatigue. In fact, I was watching a video. I shared it in one of my Facebook groups the other day. Kristen Bell, I think it was like a few years ago, she had posted about her anxiety and, some of her different struggles. And it just, whoa, like resonated with me so much because this past weekend, just to give an example, it's kind of like I'll get in those modes where I can't chill or relax. I need to be doing something or I need to be productive. So even when I watch TV, I gotta be like doing a puzzle or something, it's that I don't even know what to call it, but she was explaining on the video where she actually gets herself worked up where if someone says, "Hey, what do you want to do?" Even asking that question can spiral into frustration. And that was me this weekend. Well, what do you want to do? It's such a beautiful day. I don't know, and it's like,
Yeah,
and then you get depressed, you get kind of depressed and upset because you're like,
yeah,
well, I don't know what I want to do. And now I'm unhappy. And and it kind
yeah,
of does this thing, right? So when you're able to kind of take some of that mental strain out and maybe even pre-plan, right? So I've
definitely.
noticed with myself that I have now started, in fact, a list, right, of things to do when I get into that mode. So creating a list, during those pockets of time that I have available or free time, what are some things I can do? In fact, last night I sat down and I wrote out, right, I've got to repot my plants. I've got to, start my book, which I'm writing, a personal book, as well. Music, right? I've got a lot of music that I want to practice playing on my guitar. Like I've got a lot of different things, right, that I do like to do and I want to do, but sometimes I forget. And
Yeah.
so reeling that in and making sure to have kind of a plan in place for when that happens. And then again, you can kind of remove the frustration of, scratching and
Lots of
clawing and
nice
trying to
words for
figure.
dinner.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Oh my gosh, and then that's a good point, right? So what's
yeah,
for dinner? That was
yeah,
another, right? And it continues to be, right? That's another frustration for me. So managing and trying to figure out. So Scott and I both, obviously my husband, he also has ADD. So, we both go through, I think, seasons where we're a little more intense than others, but we both admitted, we don't love planning what to eat for dinner. In fact, it's hilarious because we both don't like it, but then we also have opinions, right? So I'll suggest all these things and I'll say, all right, what about chicken parmesan and whatever? And he'll go, or I'll say, what about tacos? I'm always down for tacos. He's like rarely down for tacos. So I'll throw out ideas and I'll pre-order everything, but still I realize that that is a frustration. And so the more ahead I can get, which this week, right, I've already planned out all the meals. Another thing that I do is I order Instacart, right? That's having someone go and do the grocery shopping because and I want you guys to just think, because, right, there's some of you who are listening going, oh, yeah, like paying somebody to get me groceries must be nice. Guys, when you look at the amount that it costs, right, the extra add on fee to have someone get in their car. Okay, this means you're not having to get up, get in your car, go to the store, probably see way more, right, in those aisles that you
stimulation.
need.
Yeah,
Okay, because I know if you shop hungry, like I do sometimes, right, you end up getting way more than you set out to. It just really helps kind of streamline things. So if maybe for an extra $11, $12, or however much, that additional
yeah,
costs, it is so worth it. And also you're able to shop by recipe. Okay. So for me, I've got a lot of allergies, gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance. I've got Hashimoto's. So there's a lot of stuff I can't have. Having everything pre-planned and having my recipes, which of course they're laminated in a cookbook, right? I've got a little machine, well-oiled machine there. I just pull out the recipes, okay, go through, make sure I order all the things, and then I put them in my little recipe holder for the week, right? So they're all lined up. And we have a fridge calendar where I will
mhm,
write what the meals are for the day. Now, if we end up having a busy day and or maybe my meal selection isn't correct, we'll order out or something like that. So we bob and weave. But anyway, meal prep, that's something, guys. Get it off your mind, right? Go and get it out and see what you can do there. Another one that has been really helpful is automating certain things, right? So, we do have a cleaner, that comes once a month. If you guys don't have a cleaner, I know, Chrissy, you have a nice little cleaning routine where actually, clean a little bit each day, which is awesome. I love that.
I automate my bills. I automate everything. Like
Heck
literally,
yeah.
I pay my bills every week and it's the exact same amount. I just figured out how much it was for the year for everything. I averaged all my bills for a year. And
Yeah.
literally that comes out of my bank account every week and I never have to worry about paying bills.
Absolutely. Well, also, thinking about the book Profit First, right?
Mhm.
Talking from an entrepreneur standpoint, one thing that was a game changer for me is, we have to make sure to take money out for taxes, right? We have to make sure that we're setting certain money aside. Well, automate it, right?
Yeah.
Set your business a bank account up so that you're taking out X amount each week, right? And sliding into that other account, right? I was frustrated so much because we actually were paying, for this one software, and it just seemed like it always snuck up on us, right? Can because it came out like quarterly. So I just started sliding over, a little bit each month. And then also think about, even it could be putting money away for special, things that you're looking at down the road, right? It just
Christmas.
really, yes, exactly. It really, really helps. So
Yeah.
those are a few things. Automating, so our mini schnauzer Ruby, she is on special medicated food. It's so that she doesn't develop kidney stones. Mini schnauzers are prone to that. So I have an automation set up with Chewy that, her food gets sent every 6 weeks now. My dog Benjamin, he's on Pemobendin for his heart, so that's set up, that's on automation. We've got a little routine around laundry, but think about the different things in your life that are maybe causing some frustration. Now, I want to show you. Okay, so I actually did this morning. So something my sister and I, so my sister obviously also, has ADHD. We have something called object permanence, which is pretty fascinating. It's something that my sister actually brought to my attention. It's basically where if you don't see something, you forget it's there, right?
Yes.
So, for example, when I'm ordering groceries, if I don't get my butt out of the chair and actually look in the fridge to see if it's there, or spin the little lazy Susan to see if that thing is there, I'm probably going to order 5 of them by the time I realize that I even did that. So, it's making sure that you have things that are visually there. So my sister even talked about stacking her fridge in a way where you can see everything, right? Actually, like having things tiered, which I love, right? Because if you got something way in the back, these little baby gherkins or, those little baby, whatever you're using, if you don't see it, it's there. Like, so one thing that really comes up for me is my closet, right? My clothes. If I fold my clothes, Christy, it's like it doesn't exist. I could order this damn white t-shirt, right? And have like 5 of them because I love them, right? And forget, right, that I have like I already have enough of those. Okay. So if it's folded, it's not good. And I realize that, in fact, this past year. So I try to hang as much as my clothes as I can. So I actually have them on hangers where the top are all the tops and then on the bottom are all the pants, right? So I can actually kind of like see the outfits. Now, where I take it a step further is a lot of times when I order clothes, and I actually use an app called Thread Up. So it's just THRED up, and it's like a sustainable like fashion basically. So it's like thrifting where it's gently used, or it could be brand new with tags, but clothes that are already in existence, right? Where you go and you can get like extremely significant like discounts. In fact, this I bought brand new with tag. In fact, I don't even know what brand this is. This might be Anthropology. Um,
Mhm.
so anyway, but like really good price, like for $12. So anyway, the whole point is you can actually, so I go through Pinterest. I'll take pictures of the things that I love and I'll save them on a board, and you can search on ThreadUp using the image. And so I'll
Oh.
actually upload the image, it'll like read it and it'll say, all right, here's the top, here's the belt, here's the bottom, and it'll bring up all these cool different things. And so then I'll place my order. Now here's the magic of all of this, right? Because if I just went ahead and did that and then everything came in and then I put it in my closet,
Mhm.
I'm going to forget what outfit. I'm going to go back to just wearing some leggings and my basic t-shirt every day, right? Like, because I'm going to forget. So what I actually did this morning, so I want to share, okay, if you guys are looking on my screen right now. So what I did is I actually went in Canva and I took all my screenshots that I had used, right, to purchase all my thread up clothes. And I went through and I added them all to a document, which I put in a little clear plastic thing
Atta
on a
girl.
hook in my closet. Okay. So today's inspiration, actually, okay, so I picked let me even I think it was one of these pictures. Yeah, it was this one. There's one in the middle, right? So I actually wanted to wear, right, the tan duster with the white tee, the leggings. Okay, so I don't have all the rest, but when I go out today, I'm going to throw on my little
Mhm.
black slip-ons and my little bag.
Nice.
So what I did is I went in my closet, which again, it's printed out. It's in my little, sleeve. And then I laid out my clothes. Okay. So something as simple as that, guys. I know it
Mhm.
sounds so silly, but it brings me
It's
so
not though.
much joy.
Yeah, it helps get rid of that decision fatigue. My
Yes.
favorite
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
My
even think of
favorite
Steve
video.
Jobs. Oh, what's that? Go ahead.
So, I was gonna say my favorite video that I ever saw in an ADHD group was somebody who was out of salt, but they had like 10 packets of dill. And it was like, because they always forget, they always think they need it, so they keep buying it, but there's like 10 of something you never ever use, and then not any of the thing you actually need. So it always makes me laugh.
Exactly. And it's so funny. And I'm like, you know what? Enough is enough. This is a real problem. So it's a problem that I went out to solve. So if you find that there are things in your life, right, we'll kind of wrap this episode up. There are a lot of systems that you can establish in your day-to-day life that will also work in your business and vice versa. And so I really do want you to take a look, at some of the tools that we mentioned today. Take a look at your current kind of flow, right? How you prioritize your tasks and how you kind of reel it in. And no, right, there's usually a solution for everything, but it's sometimes slowing down and really looking at those things that are causing the bottlenecks, and making an effort to, put some structure around it just to really harness it and hone in. And guys, some of these tips, right? In fact, again, I'm sending it to my sister, but I'm putting it out there in the world. They can be helpful for anyone. You don't just have to, be someone with ADHD. These could be things that, again, just I think we all struggle, with decision fatigue at times, and we all, right, face a lot, right? We get overwhelmed by all the things that are going on. So, again, hopefully this episode was helpful. I know I had fun kind of going over some of those things, but I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.